Hello.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Hello. All right, we can only see the top part of your head, Deb. There we go.
Wait, that's better?
Yes, ma'am.
That's
All right, perfect. And Susan, I see you're in a tropical paradise
Well, I'm
today.
about ready to turn it off. Yeah, I thought I'd be in Hawaii for a while, but now I'm back. I got bored until I look at my hair.
It's nice to go someplace even though we can't leave the home, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
All right, so my name is Corynthia, and I work part-time with the DJHS, and I was asked to moderate this discussion about the Jewish day schools. I know very little about it, so I'm looking for lots of information. So let's start off with, did you or any of your family attend one of the Jewish schools in Dallas?
Our daughter did. Joe, depending on which schools you're talking about, Joe went to Herschel Heichel Talmud Torah.
Okay, and what is
United-
that?
Are you acquainted with the United Hebrew Schools?
I have heard of that, yes.
Yeah. And then when Sheriff Israel moved into their new building, then they had their own Hebrew school. So
Okay.
that was the end of United Hebrew Schools.
Oh,
Right, United Hebrew School was all of the congregations.
Yeah, all the people that wanted from Temple or wherever, if they wanted their children to go to Hebrew school, then United Hebrew Schools was available.
okay.
Was
Great.
that weekend Hebrew schools or day school?
No, I don't know anything
Hebrew
about
school.
day
No,
school.
day
Hebrew
school.
school.
That was Hebrew School.
Hebrew schools, yeah, not a day school at all.
Okay.
Solomon Schechter, whoop, I just dropped my water there, started in 1978 or 9. In fact, I was with Rabbi Offsire when we started that.
Okay.
It came from Sheriff Israel Preschool, actually, is where
Uh-huh.
and I'm trying to remember who all was on the committee. It was me, it was Jordan Offsire, Vita Offsire,
The Lewins?
the Lewins,
Eddie Feinstein?
who?
Rabbi Feinstein?
Rabbi Feinstein hadn't gotten here yet.
He wasn't here yet? Okay.
No, he came later. God, I just had a mental block. She was head of the preschool for so long.
Lois Davidson?
Thank you,
Yeah.
Lois Davidson and Yvette. God, and I've lost
Nat
track.
Hogue? Or Yvette?
No. This was she was from Venezuela or someplace, I think. I wish I could remember her name. And I believe Janice Falk may have been on the committee also, but I'm not sure.
Okay. So
It's
who went to that? Your daughter?
our daughter was in that very first class of 3-year-olds, and it was housed at Sheriff Israel
Okay.
for the first several years until they built their building out on Frankfurt and what is now Hillcrest. What is now Hillcrest. It was Star something or other. But
Okay.
yeah, and it was really there were a lot of interest from the South African community also.
Oh, interesting. Fonda, do you have your camera on?
No,
Looks like you're wearing a purple shirt.
I don't have my camera on.
Well, we'd like
Okay.
to see you.
Oh, now you've muted yourself. Now you're back.
I think Fonda knows a lot more about Akiba than I do.
Okay. Well, that's good. Fonda, on your bottom,
No, I know how to do it.
okay,
There you go.
there you are. Yay.
Hi, friend.
Hey. Hey, Deb.
So anyway, I don't know what else you want to know about Solomon
So did
Schechter. I mean,
you
it
go
was,
all the way through?
no, she went from the time she was 3 until she was in 4th grade.
Okay,
And in the 4th grade, luckily she wasn't any older than that, or God only knows what we would have thought. We were out for dinner and she looked at us and said, you know, I really need to just talk to you guys.
oh,
So we said, yeah. She said, I think it's time for me to join the real world and go to public school. And I've been with these same, and remember, Schechter was really small at that time. So it was
right.
the same kids all the way through,
How big was her class?
maybe 10,
Okay,
if that. She had great teachers and she loved it.
right,
She was ready for the real world. So I called we live right near Spring Creek Elementary, and where both of my boys had gone. And so
uh-huh,
I knew the principal, and I called her and said, you know, Vera would like to start here, I think, in the fall. And it was Passover, so she was out of school.
mm-hmm.
And I said, you know, can she come spend the morning there and see what she thinks? So she did, and the principal called me at noon and she said, Vera wants to stay the rest of the day. So we were there until the end of 4th grade, and then she transferred.
Okay,
I was on the board for a while later on.
right,
And that was after, and then my daughter-in-law actually taught 1st grade there for about 3 years.
so lots of connections.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Anybody else go to or know anyone who went to the day schools?
Yeah, both my kids.
Okay, which ones? How long? Give us the details.
They started in the 2s and they went through 5th grade.
And
And then they went public.
So which school did they go to?
They both went to, well, they both went to Solomon Schechter. Actually, Stephanie went to Akiba in the 3s. She went somewhere else in the 2s, went to Akiba in the 3s, and then Schechter the 4s through the 5th grade. And Erica started at Schechter in the 2s and went through 5th grade.
I don't know why I was thinking your kids had gone to Akiba.
Stephanie only went 1 year
Oh, okay.
Mike,
because, I mean, you know, she just wanted to go out to Schechter. She wanted to be, you know, go up on the Bema and all that kind of stuff. So that's why we left Akiba. They didn't want me to leave. They begged me to stay, but I felt terrible that I left because my dad was like president of Akiba.
I guess that's why I was thinking that y'all
Yeah,
had gone.
Stanley Joe.
Yeah, I knew Stanley Joe was very active at Akiba.
Very, very active. Yeah, like after he died, they built a wing with his name. The science wing had his name, but when they moved to the new building on Churchill or Merritt or whatever, my mother just didn't have the money to continue the wing, so they took his name off in the new building.
Who on them?
so
You know,
I have a daughter and 2 sons. Emily is now 29, Blake is 25, and Jonah is 22. And they all started at Akiba. We actually went to had met with another preschool, but I won't say where, but at somewhere else. And we were gonna start on a Monday morning in January when my daughter was turning 2. And we went to services that Friday night, and the rabbi asked my daughter and one other girl who were not yet 2 years old singing Shabbat Shalom in the back to please be quiet. And at that moment, I looked at my husband and I went, that is not the person whose arms she's going to be able to run into. So I called the very, very lovely and sweet director on Monday morning and said, I'm really sorry, but this won't work for this. And then I kind of threw my hands up in the air. We didn't have any family here. We had moved only a year or two earlier when I didn't have kids yet. And we ran into Hannah Lambert at Akiba Academy.
The best.
And she is the queen of the world. And we drove very far. We lived in North Plain, what was North Plain. Oh, now it's not so north, but we drove very far for a long time. And my daughter stayed there, was at Akiba from whatever, the twos, junior, not even junior nursery, pre-K. Until 3rd grade. And then for a number of reasons, we moved to Schechter, and she stayed through 8th grade. And then my sons were at Akiba, each from junior nursery until, one stayed till 2nd grade and one till 7th. We ended up leaving at the same time. I worked there for a couple of years. Maybe a good or not good idea to work at the school where kids go sometimes. But anyways, I worked there for 3 years. And when I was not going to work at Akiba anymore, it was their request to go do something different. So they did. I then stayed on. I worked at Yavner for almost 14 years. I left this week, actually, 6 years ago. So
What'd you do at Yavna?
I was their PR and marketing. The same thing as at Akiba. I was PR and marketing for both schools. I've written for the Dallas Jewish Week and for the Texas Jewish Post. One for 5 years and now the other for 14 years, for almost 20 years. Last week I had my 912th article now printed for the TJP.
They should put you on the front cover.
They actually did, not unbeknownst. I didn't know that's what was going to happen to it. I actually did a piece a few weeks ago. We've been doing lots of, sadly, Corona related stories. And some of them have been cute and happy talk out of it, but there have been some very sad stories. But I did a piece about the media and how are people in the media managing. And my husband had taken a picture of me doing an interview about this story. And I sent it just like amusing myself. And it ended up being on the top piece on the cover. So.
No, you know what? I think I remember that.
Yeah, it was, it made my mother happy because not all the paper's articles go online, but
Yeah.
all the page stories are online. And so that made my mother very happy.
I think that's how I knew. I think I saw it on the front.
Yeah, so it wasn't just us. It was a story about online media and reporters and writers and TV people and all kinds of stuff. But anyway, so I had written a number of stories for both those papers about different schools and lots from Akiba because it's what I knew. I was a mom and I just knew all the good stuff that was happening and I would just write pieces to be nice. And then someone asked, would you do this full time? And so I worked for Akiba for about 6 months. I'd actually already been doing a lot of stuff for Yavna, I think, first. And then Akiba said, will you do this for us as well? And that lasted a couple of years. And then they just internally decided to do a lot less, something different. And I went upstairs to Yavna to Mr. O'Quinn and said, just checking to make sure we're still good. And I worked for him for another 10 years. And then for the person who came after him for 2. And then it was time for all of us to do something different. But yeah, so my kids have been in and around both schools. We are still very dear friends with a lot of the teachers, with a lot of the families, but a lot of the teachers have remained really, really important. Hannah Lambert, I still talk to regularly. I'm sorry she's not on, maybe she's ended up listening, but she is one of the most amazing human beings. And I used to say she and Gail Mabel, and there are a number, I just hung up with Debbie Cash, who moved from the community, but who was their teacher. When they say everything you learned you need from your kindergarten teacher, pretty much the first grades down, my kids learned whatever they needed to know from the ladies. They happen to have all mostly been women. But my boys ended up being groomsmen in one of her kids' weddings. The girl was 7 when we first met her, and my boys ended up being her groomsmen. And Gail's grandchildren were all just the flower children and ring boy in my son's wedding 2 years ago. So it very much gave a lot of family. And then through the papers, I've written about all the other schools, umpteen. So I don't think there are no schools that I haven't had the opportunity to share goodness about, so.
Okay, well, moving on that, what do you ladies know about the evolution of the Jewish day schools, Jewish education, from your experiences? Susan, you and your husband kind of know the early days in the United Hebrew School. And you said that Solomon came out of Shearith Israel, right?
Out of Sheriff Israel Preschool, right. Rabbi
Okay.
Alexander wanted a Jewish day school, a conservative Jewish day school.
Right.
Wasn't it in the pink house on North Haven and where the tollway is now?
No,
Is
that,
where,
Schechter was always at Sheriff.
no, Akiba.
Oh, I'm sorry, Akiva, yes. Oh, I think
Yeah.
so, I don't know.
Akiba was in a little pink house on North Haven.
That's right.
Yeah.
Joe remembers that, okay.
Across the street from.
Oh, you know what, that is right. It used to be right there at North Haven and
And where the
Jamestown,
tollway is, where the tollway is now.
We're close to the tollway, correct.
Correct. Remember?
Right.
And
So
by
how
the
did
way,
Akiba get started?
Yeah, right. But
my brother and sister
What?
went to Akiba. My brother and sister both went to Akiba, my younger ones.
Okay.
well, I was thinking that you probably knew more about Akiba, because of your father.
Well, I know a lot about Schechter too,
But,
because my dad really put a lot of his energy into Akiba because it was the only Jewish day school in town. And
when did it start?
they did. Schechter?
No, I know when Schechter started because I was on that committee. But
Well, Akiba added their first grade in like 62, maybe. Yeah, with Rabbi Greenfield. I think that was it, because I was a year ahead of myself, and when they added the first grade, I was in second grade, and my parents didn't hold me back. So when I should have been at, about 62, 63, somewhere around there.
Okay. So now, did they just add a grade a year?
They added a grade a year.
Okay.
And then my sister, they added a 9th grade when she finished the 8th grade. So she was in the only 9th grade they had at the time. And then they went back to 8 grades. So she actually went through 9 grades
Oh, wow.
there. They had 9th grade, but I don't think they didn't keep it. And they might have tried it one more time. I'm not sure.
Because all the 9th graders went to the high schools, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Junior high or high school, yeah.
right, until Yavna opened, there was no junior high or high school. I mean, after 8th grade, there was no place.
You went to Green Hill, St. Mark's.
Green Hill, St. Mark's, into
public
school, right?
Okay.
But
Avna just celebrated, I think this is its 26th year.
Wow.
I didn't realize it had been that long.
Yep.
Okay. And then
And about 15 years ago, I think it's about 15 years ago, there was a call, or maybe a little bit more, for a conservative. I think they had tried many times to open a conservative high school.
Right.
And it was finally really going to happen. And it was going to be the Golda Meir Day School, high school. And it was going to be run by Rabbi Fuller, who actually was my USY director in Los Angeles growing up many, many years ago.
Wow. Wow.
And so it was funny. I remember one day at fair at lunch, I walked in and somebody said, "You have to go meet Rabbi Fuller." And I said, "Okay, I'll go say hello." He said, "I don't know why the person thought we should connect, but anyway," I turned around and I looked up and he looked, I'm very short and he is still very tall.
Still very tall, right?
And he turned around and I said, "Gordy," which is not, I mean, he was never really Rabbi Fuller. He is Rabbi Fuller, but I don't think anybody really called him Rabbi Fuller. But I said, "Gordy," and he said, "Debbie," and it was very sweet. It probably was 20.
That's funny.
Yeah, it was really sweet.
Now he retired now.
He retired. He's back east. He's in
Outside of DC.
But they loved him in Waco. He was in Waco for a long time. And they really, I grew up in Waco and still had, and that's all I ever heard was how wonderful he was. He was perfect for that community.
Well, he was going to run this Golda Meir Day School until August. And in August, they were going to open 3 weeks later. And something happened that they lost funding, and something terrible happened, which I knew at the time. And now I'm sorry, I can't recall what it was. But anyway, it did not happen. And there was a whole slew, I think like 14 or 15 kids from Schechter, it was still Schechter at the time, and in my head it's still. There were probably 15 kids who had not applied to all the other private schools that everybody went to. They all came to Yavne, and they were kids that in a prior life, so to speak, would not have come to Yavne. It was far more observant families, not a whole lot. There were some, but not many conservative families there, but this whole slew, literally a generation of kids came over. It was my, I don't know, maybe like my first year, maybe it was like 2002 or 3, something like that. I'm not 100% sure, but anyways, and those kids happened to have been the oldest. Most of them were the oldest siblings of 2 or 3 or more kids. And ever since then, I think those families have just now, in the last couple of years, aged out of now 15 years of kids that Yavne probably would not have seen. And I think Yavne evolved, not for better or worse, it just did, to a much broader scope of community, and really became a community school, still under modern Orthodox tenets and still with its observancies, if that's a word, but really a much broader 130 something students instead of 40.
Great.
That happened because Golda Meir did not happen. So that was sad, but what came from the sad is really something, had been something really amazing.
Right.
When did Torah Day School open?
Torah Day School opened second grade for Blake. So he was 8, so 94, like 99, 2000 maybe?
20 years?
2002. It must have been 2002 because it was after 9/11. So it was
18 years?
2001 or 2. Yeah. Yeah, my kids were in second grade, or my son was in second grade, and it was still at the old campus. It was before we moved to before Akiba and Yavne moved in to Merritt, which was the 2004-5 year. And I remember that morning walking in, and most people, obviously the people behind the scenes knew, but most people had no idea. The kids didn't know, most parents didn't know, but by lunchtime, I happened to be on campus that morning for something, and by lunchtime, kids were crying. All of a sudden, the kids realized why there were a lot of kids who weren't there, and it literally happened overnight. And
oh, I remember that.
It also grew into something beautiful. I mean, they have hundreds of children and they're beautiful people, and I'm still dear friends with a lot of those teachers. And it was something that maybe the community needed, or did, you never know what would have happened if something didn't happen. So I don't know if we needed it or not, but those families needed it. And both schools are thriving. Akiba has grown and is wonderful as it is, and Torah Day is lovely and wonderful as it is. But that was a very hard day, and we came home, and maybe it was email or maybe it was a piece of paper that said this is what's happened, and there was a lot of hard feeling and a lot of frustration and sadness, and it was Shari Tefillah and Or HaTorah became at that time, and the schools, there was very much a sense of split. It was a very hard time. It's grown into a lot of beautiful. I think there are probably some people who still have very hard feelings. And there are a lot of people who have gained a lot because it happened. So, but yeah, that was a tough thing.
And I don't hear anything about the girls' school anymore. Is it still
Well,
here?
then you did not read the Jewish Post last week. You missed the lovely
I
story.
missed that story. Uh-oh.
I actually did a piece last week of the class of 2019. They had 13 girls, which is they have usually between 13 and 15 now, which is pretty strong given that this is a pretty small, but not so small community. But they're 13 graduates. 11 went away to Israel to study in seminary, 1 to New York and 1 to Chicago. And they all had to hurry up and get back in, on a Thursday, they were told, COVID is now here and you've got to leave. And they all came home after Shabbos. And the piece last week that I did was all 11 of the 13, 2 asked not to participate. But it's a piece on each of the other kids and what they were doing and where they went and how they turned around. But
I have to go back and read that, yeah.
It's a lovely piece. No,
I'm sure it is. All of your pieces are lovely.
It's interesting. These pieces during this time have been, I think I usually spend 2 to 3 hours on a story. That's like a really long time. By the time I do a little bit of research and I talk to people and I interview and then I write it, I don't think it usually takes me maybe 3 or 4 hours, just depending on what it is. Most of these pieces have been like to do 11 kids. I really had to do the 13, even though 2 didn't want to talk. It was for sure 4 times the amount of time to write it. Or the restaurant stories of, I did a week that we did the kosher restaurants and how they're managing, and then Jewishly owned, but not kosher. Those were each 8 or 9. They could have each been their own story in terms of the time to do them. I could have easily written a piece about each of those places. Yeah, it's been an interesting, totally off topic, sorry, but yeah. But
Well,
the
the
schools are working hard right now, I will tell you that much. They are all Zooming, they are all online. I have a niece in California who says her grades were 5 A's and a B in February or March, and that she gets to keep that. So she's completely unengaged and couldn't care, but is not really having to do so much. And yet the kids here and the teachers, they are on at 8. The Yavna kids, they are online at 8, off at 2. The teachers are answering phone calls and emails at 10, 11, and midnight, because those kids' grades are going to be as they are, and they're going to go through. And it's a tough,
wow.
they're working hard. The educators in our community are working, in the Jewish community for sure. I think the public schools, I'm sure, as well. Gail Mabel sent me yesterday, she and Naomi Sannett do a puppet show at Tiferet once a month. Maybe it's twice a month, but I think once a month. They're now doing them online. I was crying. I was laughing so hard at 11:30. She sent it to me last night. It's Corona on the Roof. And it's Fiddler
Funny.
playing Corona and all the intricacies, but like so that a 4-year-old could listen, but a grown-up is totally interested because a 4-year-old probably doesn't know Fiddler on the Roof, but you're totally hearing the songs. So they're having to be very creative, and those people are working many times over themselves.
So in light of not being with each other, because we're all generally confined to the house, how important are the schools to keeping community? And education's important too, but I think community rises to the top at this point.
What I'm hearing from people, it's huge. My kids are grown up and out, and as much as I miss them desperately, I couldn't be more grateful that right now I am not responsible for algebra or even 4th grade math.
Same.
My kids would be so ungestuckt, it's not even funny. So I am grateful, but going back to the Mabel family, her daughter Amy is a director of the orchestra, one of the directors of the orchestras at Plano West. And she has an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old, and she has their 2 desks set up, and she has her desk set up. And the other day she was trying to do auditions for the orchestra. That is normal to Zoom auditions for I don't know if you've been watching like American Idol or any of these things, but it's like, it's really hard to do, and that's fancy schmancy. And in the meantime, the 8-year-old needs help with what's 9 times 12. And Amy said, you got to figure it out. And she says, what's 9 times 12? And she said, use your resources. So Haley dropped the pen and walked in the hallway, and you hear her in the hallway saying, Alexa, what's 9 times 12? So that made it into Gail's Corona on the Roof play last night. And so I cried again last night at whatever late. But I think it is so hard and so difficult. And those teachers, they are showing up. First, they're doing the schooling, but they're showing up in the yards. Public and private schools are showing up in the yards to do tea parties and birthday parades and your Scholar of the Week or your Star of the Week. And they're driving by, lunches sitting on the cart, on the porch with hundreds of kids, with dozens of kids. And I'm sure playing psychologist to parents and having to do most of their own, because most of these people have young kids.
Yeah.
So they're having to really incorporate and figure out, I don't know how the bandwidth, literal or figurative, is happening in so many homes.
Right. No, it's interesting. My daughter-in-law is a 3rd grade teacher, and she's teaching online. And she said, I really miss hugging these kids. And the ones that need help really, she tries. But it's hard because the parents are home too, and they're trying to work, like you say, and, she's afraid a lot of these kids are going to be left.
I think hugs are a thing of the past.
I think they
even if they're in school.
Right. Our oldest, no, not oldest, but anyway, I have a grandson who's graduating high school this year.
And he's a superstar, by the way. I was impressed by him.
Thank you. He is.
Unbelievable.
I have to agree. He is a superstar. And plus, he's a neat kid. But they had a drive-through thing at their high school where all of the teachers were out there, the principal.
Where does he go to high school?
He goes LD Bell in Hearst. And they're just announced they're going to have graduation at the Texas Motor Speedway. And they did his IB graduation, one kid at a time at the football field. And they're putting it together into a big video so that, so they don't miss out completely, but at least they have something.
Well, that's amazing.
Yeah, now he's just hoping that college starts.
My daughter was graduating on Friday from Georgetown, but they canceled that graduation too.
Yeah. I mean, it's sad that you can't enjoy these milestones.
Yeah.
They worked hard, you worked hard, getting them there. And
does anybody know anything about that Temple Shalom Day School that Bonnie Rubenstein ran?
That was a preschool. They had preschool only. I don't mean only, but it was a preschool. I don't think it went to kindergarten. I I covered the Q and U wedding there a couple of times. Q married you.
What?
For those.
They were doing the alphabet, and they would teach the alphabet, and every year the queen would marry the Q married you. And
Oh, how cute.
yeah,
Yes.
that's right. I remember that.
That was very fun.
cool too.
Yeah. So Bonnie was actually a teacher. Was one of my daughter's teachers when she was.
And she was my daughter's teacher at Akiba.
At Akiba,
Yeah.
yes, between 2 and 3. She was that summer. I don't think she had her during the year, but she had her during that summer for sure. And then she left and went to she went to Temple Shalom a couple years later with Quincy, who was the janitor, who everybody loved. And that was like, I don't know who else could have left the building and not been missed, but Quincy that was a terrible, sad, not a loss, he lived, but he was missed.
Why'd he leave?
Because he went with Bonnie to work at Temple Shalom.
Oh,
It was
from
a
Akiba?
wonderful- I'm sure it was great for him, yeah, but when she left, he didn't, so that was a bummer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was very beloved. I don't know if he's still here. I don't want to say because I don't like my mouth will go.
I don't know.
I hope he's alive and well. But she is. She sits in front of me at Shoal in real life and next to me on Zoom. So,
That's cool.
yeah, it's interesting. It's a bit of day school, I guess. Jewish day school life is that her son Neil, is married to Daphna Rubenstein, who used to be Daphna Barone, whose mother taught at Schechter for many years. Now,
She was my daughter's Judaica teacher too.
so the Neil and Daphna as either junior high or high school kids were BBYO sweethearts of these two very in this community legendary Jewish educators, and they got married.
Isn't that funny?
Long time, but they're
World.
Be nice to everybody and be careful who you grow up with. Yeah. My son married his BBYO sweetheart also. So, yeah.
Wait, who was?
Blake and Whitney Fine, who is now Whitney Silverthorne, met in 9th grade.
Like my granddaughter and her boyfriend have been
You're
together
cutting out.
22, and they've been together since they were 16 from BBYO.
There you go. It's a good place.
That's right.
There are a few
I have the
troublemakers
own-
as well, but it's a lot of good people.
I have the only kids that didn't find a husband in BBYO or birthright or college.
Well, I did
One
too.
day. One day.
What other day schools were here? I don't remember any others. Were there?
There was
No, it was
Wise Academy was a reform school that was here. It was on the other side of the tollway. It was on the west side, I guess, of the tollway. I can't think of where. It was sort of like hidden near the tollway and Forest-ish.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought that
Around.
was at Temple
I
Shalom.
did too. I thought Weiss was at Temple Shalom.
It started at Shalom. It had its own building, though, the last few years.
Oh.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Um,
Me neither.
trying to think who, I wrote a number of pieces long ago because I left Akiba. I stopped working at Akiba in 06, and Marae Allen, I called her, Wise closed in 06. That's when they closed because she was about to lose her job or the school was closing. And I called and said, whatever the circumstances, but I'm leaving, but it's a nice place. You should come do this if you want. Hello, Mrs. Paylette.
Hello.
And so she took the position and she came to Akiba when I left, and she was there for a few years, and then she actually left maybe 4 years later to go. Mark Stolovitsky left Akiba and went to be the head of school at Schechter for a couple of years. I think it was like 3 years. And she went there with him as the director of communications, and then I think did admissions for a few more years.
And Marilyn can probably tell you a lot more about Schechter because her father was also very involved.
Okay.
My parents were the founders.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
We can.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
My microphone doesn't work. Often doesn't work.
Your dad gave out the Sidors.
That was
Yeah.
One time-
the honor they gave him.
He certainly did.
We have them. We have them here
We
in
do
the
too.
house. Yeah.
Did you all speak
Yeah.
at all about the United Hebrew Schools of Dallas?
Joe was telling them about, but they really want to know more about the
The day schools.
rather than, because I thought
Okay.
United Hebrew School was great.
You're looking for more information on the current schools? Is that it?
Yep.
Or on day schools,
Okay.
the Hebrew schools.
I went to Sheriff Hebrew School
Well,
all
Joe-
the way through, and my kids went through 12th grade.
But see, we didn't have that when I was growing up. None of the congregations had Hebrew schools. That's why we had a community Hebrew school.
Joe still talks about United Hebrew School and Talmud Torah all the time.
Yeah.
They tried
Bill-
to combine all the conservative, what was it called, ATID?
Well, they did that. That's more recent. They do
more
that
recent.
for confirmation.
They still have it. It's separate from confirmation. There's a confirmation class that is only 10th graders. And then the three conservative, Beth Torres, Sheriff, and Anshe did a team for about 5 years, 6 years.
With Wendy Weinberg.
Right.
Wendy was involved in it. A lot of people from each of the schools. It is now called something else. I'll think of it in a minute. Starts with a D. It's based at Anshe, but the kids come, not right now, but in real life. I still have about 100 kids. But
Oh, that's great.
highs were really struggling at a couple of the synagogues
Right.
on their own. And the joint effort really has made it something.
So that's for the older kids, for the high school kids?
High school, it's 9th through 12th. I think they even bring in some of the 8th grade classes for some things, but I'm not really sure. But it is a 9th through 12th. It's called, I'll think of it.
You'll think of it. That's
Or I'll
interesting.
cheat and look on our website where I posted it because it's really confusing. Tell you in 1 sec.
Yeah, because, it's, like I said, Sheriff used to
Derech.
have.
It's called Derech. That's what it's called.
Derech?
Derekh, and it's 8th through 12th grade now, actually. And Rabbi Kushnick runs it, but it is a compilation of the rabbis and community, each of those synagogue community teachers.
Where is it?
It's held at Anshe in real life, but I think they're also doing it online. I know all of Anshe's Hebrew school and preschool is online. Is on Zoom right now. I believe most of the synagogues are doing that.
Here's Hannah.
Hi, Hannah Lambert.
Oh, look.
It just got even more better.
Oh, I can't believe we're at this point. And here is Debbie.
I just called you the queen of the world. Hannah, look to your left slightly. Look toward your computer. No, sorry, you're right.
Okay.
Now you're almost facing us.
Okay. Is that enough?
There you are.
Now, what am I supposed to do now? Are
Say
you,
anything you want.
Liv, are you leading this meeting?
Hannah Lambert.
Wait, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, I can. Look straight ahead.
Oh, now I see somebody else. Who is that?
Marilyn Paylette is there.
So can I hang up my phone now?
I'm not sure.
I'm in the meeting. Jessica, it is Jessica, right?
Yeah.
Jessica, I'm finally there. It finally came through to my computer. I'm hanging up with you, Jessica. You are an angel. Bye. Oh, there's Marilyn Paylett.
I finally got on too.
Okay, aren't we something? Now what do we do?
So we're talking about the Hebrew day schools, the Jewish day schools.
United Hebrew School of Dallas, or are you talking about current?
Well, we're talking about that and others.
Okay, so I'm here. Ask me whatever you want or
Talk to us. Tell us what you know.
oh my goodness.
What year did you start at Akiba, Hannah?
1978. Hello.
Okay.
And I
Hi.
have to tell you all, I was on a committee, the Akiba, we had kids at Akiba, and the preschool was floundering. And we the mothers got together and said, what are we going to do? And so we had a committee. I was on that committee. And Hannah had been like helping out. And we said, Hannah, can you just temporarily help us with this? We got to get this preschool back on its feet. And how many years did you say?
Since 1978, and I just retired in 2015.
Wow.
That was their temporary job that she helped us with.
Temporary job. And at the time when I was helping out, I was a vice president of education on the board of directors.
God bless that you came. I said that we were expected to, had already signed and given a check to another
Place.
to another place, and that Shabbat wasn't as warm and friendly as we planned, and I needed a rabbi who was going to welcome and warm and hug my kids. We ended up not being able to go there, and by Monday morning I was in your office on a whim, absolutely by accident. There was no part of me that ever thought I'd spend 17 years, let alone another 10 professionally, driving from Southern Oklahoma. And and you saved, you were the queen of, I have often said, your fingerprints and those of you who you brought in, fingerprints are still on my kids' hearts. And that is the
Well,
grace.
I'm just so glad you came. And I do love you still. Now, who is this? I see a shadow, but no face. Is that
Sarah,
Mary?
I think that's you.
Who
Is that me?
No,
Is it-
no, there's someone
Am
else
I
on.
on?
Sarah, oh, Sarah Davis, is
Well, I don't-
that it?
Sarah, yeah.
Yes.
I can't see your face.
You're a little
That's
dark.
it.
Your background is very light, Sarah, and your face.
My face either. I mean, I know it's me.
Okay,
But-
Sarah, we believe you. Okay, so that's the beginning.
Uh-huh.
Now, who is this with a couch and a dog?
Mrs. Shackman?
Oh, it's Susan Shackman, I guess.
Oh, well, hi, Susan.
Hello.
Oh, I see. It is Susan Jackson.
That's right. You can see my dog back there. She's been enjoying it.
Good.
Beautiful.
Yeah, she's a mess.
Well,
Cute.
Akiba started when my son was 3 years old, and I was going to send him to the JCC. Akiba, the day school Akiba Academy started when Craig was 3. And my father said, you need to send him to Akiba. And so we did. And that was the beginning of my association as I was just a parent. And I was active with the PTA, and then I became.
I have your pictures. I have your pictures in the PTA.
Oh,
They were in my mom's stuff. There's so many pictures of you and all the ladies, you know, Anne and
Rosenberg.
yeah, and Leslie.
Leslie.
Yeah, and
Shirley.
yeah, and Rubinsky. Yeah, I've got a lot of that.
Yes, we all work very hard as parents. In fact, we all planted the grass in front of the building. When I started,
Wow.
we didn't have a building. We had, well, there was a building that was going to be a Good Asachem. and it was on North Haven. Right now, let's see, at the time, I guess there was no freeway there. Anyway, then we got the building, and it was the beginning of a wonderful ride. It was just great. It was a wonderful school, and we worked very hard to grow. And our first principal,
Greenfield.
Rabbi Greenfield, and he was outstanding. And he, of course, the whole thing started because Ann Rosenberg told her husband Marcus she would not move to Dallas unless there was a day school for her children. And so, of course, he had to begin a day school. And my father, Harry Goldman, was on the committee, the planning committee, when it was beginning. And I thought it was kind of un-American to have a Jewish day school, because I went all through public school and went to Hebrew school. And Marilyn Paylett and I can tell you about the Jewish education before there was an Akiba. I don't know where you want to begin.
Well, we're talking about mostly the day schools this time, but I think before the day schools would be a fascinating conversation as well.
But another time, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So Akiba had some wonderful leaders in the school, and that was Leslie Schultz and Rosenberg and myself and Shirley Ravinsky, and we worked very hard to get it all started. And it was sort of an upward climb because, like I said, I thought it was un-American to have a Jewish day school at one time, but I had to please my daddy. But the day school with Rabbi Greenfield was successful, and I was very upset with him when he told us he was leaving.
Sure.
So I told him he was committing a sin.
Where did he go? Hannah, where did he go?
He went up, I don't know where exactly he went, but he started a business, a rice business. And I thought that was just ridiculous, such a talented man to put his time on something that was not Jewish day school. But we moved on from there, and we did very well.
You got Jacobovitz. No, was it Jacobovitz?
There was Rabbi Mozak, there was Rabbi Jacobovitz. Rabbi Mozak was the one who actually hired me, even though Marilyn voted to have me temporary. And during the time when we were serving this community, it was when there were many Russians coming in. Marilyn, do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And we had, Marilyn really was not terribly in favor of all those Russians coming in. But then no, you weren't. And so then you decided it was going to be okay. And we had special programming for the Russians so that they could learn English. We had special teachers to teach them English. And Marilyn decided, you know what, this is a good thing. This is a mitzvah, we'll do it. And
that's how the Jewish Family Service started, when they started resettling all the Russians in Dallas.
Jewish Family Service certainly worked hard on that. That was actually before I came to work at Akiba. I was president of Jewish Family Service, and we worked.
Wow.
We worked hard to get those Russians settled into Dallas and to become part of the Jewish community. And you're right. You're absolutely right.
The interesting thing before the Russians is they had some Polish immigrants. They were living over in these apartments on Northwest Highway. And I volunteered to teach them English, and it was a good way to do it because I didn't know a word of Polish, so I couldn't. They had to learn the English. And I would go in the evening, and the several families that were staying there, it was a elderly couple, and then their married two couples and a baby. one of them had, and I would work with them with English. Well, fast forward, gosh, what is this, 50 something years, I guess. I'm at a program for my grandchild at Solomon Schechter, and they're giving the names out for awards. It's like 2 years ago. And one of the names was the name of that family that I had helped with the English. So I watched to see who was clapping for that child. I went over to them when the program ended, introduced myself and said, excuse me, but was it your family that came from Poland here to Dallas and blah, blah? And yes. I said, you were the infant that I helped your family.
No.
And his wife chaired the big fundraiser for Mara and Kevin. She was one of the chairs this year. And here and they have it's a grandchild of the people I helped now. But
wow.
Can you imagine?
Marilyn, what a
Small world.
story.
Small world.
Have you,
I didn't know what
Marilyn,
had happened to those people. And then I found them again.
Marilyn, I
Wow.
have to tell you, when you made your recordings for oral history did you put this story in it?
No, well, there was too many stories about my family and everything.
You need to add that.
I'll make a new oral.
Not a limit on oral histories. Please tell all your stories.
Well, you need to put that one in because that is unbelievable.
Isn't that a small world? I couldn't believe.
Yes, it is. But then actually, Akeeb Academy was the one that the place that really inspired Jewish Day School in Dallas. And from that same Akeeb Academy, we have the Solomon Schechter, which is, of course, now Nate Levine, and then we have all the other Jewish Day schools. We have Torah Day, we have, what else do we have, John?
Masora.
Masora.
Yavna.
And
So Levine, Schechter opened in 1980. I just went back and found a piece I did about the 36th anniversary, and that was in 2016.
Yeah, it was 79, 80. Yeah.
79, 80.
I was gonna say Farrah was 70. That's about right, because I was gonna say we started that thing. She was 3, and she was born in 76, so that's about right.
Yeah, 79. Yeah. I
and
kind of
that's
remember
when you
that.
started, that's when Solomon Schechter started.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Huh.
Yeah.
I've just always known 1979, but
Well, it must have been
Close
79, 80 would have been the first school year.
yeah, yeah.
Right,
It would have been
79.
36.
Yes, and then it was housed at Sheriff.
Right, right. And then I remember from Akiba's point of view, or like there were people who were saying, well, that Akiba, I didn't say that, but people said Akiba will never make it now that there's a Solomon Schechter.
But
know,
I have to tell you,
They said that about the schools that came out.
I'll tell you something very important. I was very involved when my father was so busy trying to start a conservative day school. And they didn't want to be a problem in the community and didn't want to affect Akiba where I had children. And my father promised that no child would be taken from Akiba to start Solomon Schechter, including my own children who were not allowed to go there. They
Really?
stayed at Akiba.
Oh.
Honestly, they stayed at Akiba because that was his word that he didn't want any community problems. He said, no, not one child will be taken. We will start with all new people. And in fact, the first grade they started failed. It wasn't enough kids to go on to the second, and they had to start over again the next year with the first grade, and then it took off. But yeah, and my own kids who would have been in this were not allowed to go.
Because
Or his other grandchildren who were also at Akiba.
Right,
Wait.
we carpooled with Gail's kids.
to Akiba.
No, with Gail's children to Solomon Schechter.
No, Gail's kids never went to
Not the
Solomon
little,
Schechter.
no, her son.
Oh, he was younger. Okay,
Yes,
so he had
yes.
never gone
Yeah.
to Akiba.
Right.
Wait a minute, I'm sorry.
Right.
Solomon Schechter had to do 2 first grades?
They had a first grade. There weren't enough children that year, the very first grade, to go on to second grade.
I didn't know that.
And they had to start over the next year with another first grade. Yeah.
So what
I
happened
had
to the
no
kids
idea.
from first grade?
They obviously weren't willing to go on to the second grade, enough of them, so they went other places at that point. I have no idea. I guess public school, you know, I don't know.
Can I make a quick introduction? Lorraine Friedman has just jumped on. She is the head of special needs programming at Jewish Family Service.
Wonderful.
She grew up in Dallas. She left for many years, and now she's been back for 2. So she may or may not have some insight or something to share, but there you go. She's a lovely lady.
Do we see
Oh,
Lorraine?
thank you. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Hi.
Oh, hi.
I've met some of you with our Special Needs Partnership Honors event. I see Hannah, and Hannah and I have met. I'm so sorry that I missed this exciting discussion. I was trying over and over and over again. I was driving poor Deb crazy, trying to get in. I had a wrong link, so it didn't let me into this meeting. So I will talk to Deb after and get all the news and get filled in, but please know that I was trying to join you guys.
Well,
You look familiar.
well,
Thank you.
I will tell you, there was a time when Akiba Academy just began to try to meet the needs of special needs children. And we had hired a teacher who was working with it. And there was a time when there was another school that I'm not going to mention the name of, that was for special needs children. And we had talked about maybe we should connect with them and let the special needs children be taught by their people, and then they would have Jewish education with Akiba. It never came to fruition, but I still think that there needs to be more for special needs Jewish children that can focus on Jewish concerns and Jewish education.
Absolutely. So
But we have something now. We have a whole program at Akiba, and you can probably tell them about it, for children who have special needs. And so actually it happened, didn't it?
yes. So
Tell them about it.
I think, yes, I think it's very exciting that some of the children's needs are now being met, which is fabulous. It's better than children. When I came here 2 years ago, it was what we called the Great Whoosh, because children were leaving Jewish day schools and going to Baltimore and going to New Jersey, and they were leaving Dallas so that their children with special needs and disabilities could receive a Jewish education. Because as we all know, for some people, it's not optional that their kids go to public schools. That's not what they want. That's not the experience they want. And so when the schools were saying, we can't meet your needs, we don't have the teachers or the training or the space for kids acting out or whatever was going on, they were exiting Jewish children when I came here 2 years ago. And so we are thrilled with the Akiba program. You know, that is, as we all know, that is like step one, right? Because we still have children at, you were naming some of them, but Torah Day, for instance, has a lot of children with special needs who their needs aren't necessarily being met right now. And we really, JFS is pushing into the classrooms, and our counselors are going there. So we are sending educational interventionists and we're sending social workers, and we have speech language people, we have OT people. So we are going into every single school. Ariella Goldstein, who has been at JFS a long time and is the head of our, the director of our clinical services, is working on something that she calls a school without walls, which is where any child with a special need could stay in the school that they're currently in. So, you know, unfortunately, what is appropriate and wonderful and happening right now at Akiba may not be what someone at TTI or Masora might not be the level that they are looking for. And they want to keep those kids at their school getting the Jewish education that they want. And so it's just these little micro differences that we're trying to create a program where we can go help wherever the need is. And so not creating a different school, but creating a system to meet the needs of the existing student population where they are. So that's what we're working on right now. It's very exciting. If anyone knows someone that I should talk to that, you know, is interested in helping with that, you know,
Ariella is a former Akiba and Yavna mom. Just saying.
Yes, she is.
She's very LinkedIn, that is for sure. She's like you, Deb.
No, I wish I were like Ariella Goldstein. When I grow up, I want to be Ariella Goldstein.
I'm sorry, I had to get off for a business call. So I didn't know if you got anything about the special education at Solomon Schechter or Levine Academy, excuse me.
Yes, we were talking about it. It's a great program. The Malo program is fabulous and it's working for those children. We were just saying we need programs in all the schools so that everyone's needs can be met and not just the children that are lucky enough to have a program now for themselves.
Okay.
Well,
Ladies,
very
thank you so much. It is 4 o'clock. I hate to cut us off, but it was only supposed to be for an hour. I'm going to pass some recommendations on to the archive to maybe do this again with another slant, because there's so much to talk about with Jewish education. And like I said at the beginning, I just don't know that much about it. But clearly there's so many stories here that need to be told.
We need to get some alums.
Program.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, that's an excellent idea to get some alums to come and
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Guys. Thank you.
Bye,
for letting me
guys.
join in.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Sure.
I'm glad we got to
Beautiful
visit.
name.
Hannah, finally.
Bye.
Yes,
Thank
Marilyn,
Bye.
we finally got,
We were both having trouble.
but we got in.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for letting me sit in.
And may we go from strength to strength.
Amen. Hannah, do you know how to get back out?
I don't.
Okay. Are you on a phone or the computer?
The computer.
On your bottom right of your black screen, it should say leave. There's a red rectangle. You move your cursor around and toward the bottom on the right.
Oh, it says leave. Yeah.
Sadly, you can do that and then you will be left.
I'm so glad to see all of you.
Love you, lady. Thanks so much, everybody.
Mm-hmm.